Hi, and welcome back. We're on episode 28 of what I guess I'm just going to call Fear Me It's Brie podcast, or Fear Me It's Brie, because I literally cannot, I like everything that everyone's thrown at me for a name suggestion, but nothing sticks enough for me to want to rebrand, if that makes sense. So we're just going to call it what it is and go with what I've been calling it and myself since, I don't know, January? Did I start this in January? I don't know. We're only 28 episodes in, so who knows? You might notice that my left eye is a little red and a little swollen, and it's because I made the mistake of thinking I could wear eyeliner on the lower quadrant of my eye here, and whenever I do that, it ends up super sore, like it feels bruised to the touch, swells up a little bit, gets really red. I can wear eyeliner on the top lids just fine, but for some reason when I do it on the lower area, my eyes freak out, and I've got to stop trying to do that or change brands or something. I have that Irish complexion that likes to just react and reject everything that I put on my skin. So it might just be that my body does not like it. So if I look like Quasimodo and if I look funny today, that's why, along with the fact that I changed up the lighting a little bit. So I'm just trying something out. Tell me if the lighting's terrible and I will switch it back. I can't decide. I think it kind of makes me look washed out, but I'm also wearing less makeup today. So it actually, it could be that. And my eyes swollen. So there's a lot of factors that could be making it look funny. I can't genuinely decide if I like it or not. But we're going to have fun. We're going to look at some stuff that I don't know. So we're going to look at the article about Gwen Stacy from the Spiderverse being trans that Pink News put out. I don't know if I buy into it, but we're going to look at it anyway. And why is my mic clipping? Anyway, we're going to look. Whoa. Hello. 1, 2. Buckle my shoe. Okay, I guess that's better. That was really weird. That never clips. So it's always too low, if anything. So yeah, we're going to look at the Gwen Stacy crap. We're going to look at the alien stuff because I have not gotten a chance to talk about that yet. And I want to talk about aliens because it's fun. And then we're also going to look at the whole, Matt Walsh is trending again. Let's see what happened this time. And read an article about that. And if I have time, I have something else I might tack on at the end, but I'm going to gauge how long I ramble on these topics before I go and add a fourth thing. So if you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all the fun places, you can at Fear Me It's Brie. I don't believe my Rumble username is the same. I'm working on that. But you can also obviously watch the show on Twitter. No, you can't. You can watch the show on YouTube and you can watch it on Rumble as well. Yeah, I'm tired and my eye hurts, but I wanted to do this today and just get this out there before it was super old news. Again, watching those mic levels and they are freaking out. I don't know what's going on. Weird. So maybe I'm too close. That could be that, I guess. But anyway, let's jump into things with the Gwen Stacy article. It's from Pink News, so obviously it's very LGBTQ centered, for those that don't know. And we're going to look at that because I don't know if I buy into this theory, at all. And I'm also not saying, I haven't seen the movie, admittedly. I'm waiting for it to come onto streaming because it's just not something that I personally am yeah, I'm going to go pay money to see that. I don't care enough. I like the first Spiderverse, but if I'm going to spend money to sit in a theater and watch something, it's not going to be this. So I'm not saying don't take your kids to it, but I also genuinely don't know. So let's look at the article and see what they have to say. Spider-Man fans are convinced Gwen Stacy is trans in Across the Spider-Verse. Here is the evidence. It's official. Fans of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse are convinced that the character Gwen Stacy is trans, and the evidence is compelling. Warning, this article contains major spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, I guess don't listen to me. The animated sequel to 2018's Oscar-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was released on Friday, June 2nd, reuniting viewers with the first biracial Spider-Man, Miles Morales, voiced by Shamik Moore. I don't think that that's true. I think that they've had, well, maybe not biracial, but I feel like they've had pretty diverse Spider-Men within the comics and games and stuff. So Anyway, and countless Spideys from other dimensions, including Spider-Gwen, also known as Spider-Woman, Hallie Steinfeld. Fans who've seen the film are now theorizing that Gwen is trans, or at least an allegory for the trans experience, due to a number of queer-coded and queer-colored cues. It all comes after the Spider-Verse fans noticed a trans pride flag bearing the word "Protect Trans Kids" in the background of a trailer for the film earlier this year. So, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but it's, like, if you look right on at Gwen, it's, like, right above her door. Watching Across the Spider-Verse adds some vital new context, with many who've now seen the film in full arguing that Gwen's characterization, animation, and story arc minor the societal and internal struggles that trans people face on a daily basis. First of all, there's that aforementioned Protect Trans Kids poster, which is confirmed to be on the wall of Gwen's own bedroom on Earth-65 during the film's prologue. So I guess, if not, like, trans herself, Gwen is a trans ally or something. In a film with multiple animation styles, the color palette used for all of Gwen's scenes on Earth-65 appear imbued with the pastel blue, pink, and white colors of the trans pride flag, which I'm sure we all know what that looks like, right? It's the pastel pink, white, and blue. 3 colors I really like, which is kind of annoying because I'm like, dang it, they take everything. The stylistic choice becomes even more apparent during a key scene where Gwen opens up to her policeman father, George Stacy, about her hidden identity as Spider-Woman. So I guess, like, wow, I can see it, obviously, in that image where it's like, okay, yeah, that's a little on the nose there. I don't know if they were intending that, but I don't know. It's a little forward. Gwen and the environment around her are particularly drenched in the trans pride colors during the sequence, with many seeing the scene itself as a metaphor for coming out. In the film, Gwen is forced to hide her identity from judgmental eyes in a world where Spider-Woman is misunderstood and despised by society. To top it all off, and eagle-eyed viewers notice that during the same scene, a trans pride flag badge can be seen pinned to Gwen's father's police uniform. Gwen Stacy is trans. Her whole arc is a trans allegory. The colors are the trans flag, but most telling, her white cop dad wears the trans colors on his uniform. No effing cop is that much of an ally unless they have a trans family member, said somebody on Twitter. This tweet says, trans and even cis fans have every right to say Gwen Stacy is trans, even if the movies never outright confirm it. You can't deny that it's been hinted at. The fact is, if she can make somebody feel represented, who are you to tell them that they're wrong? So I don't remember anything like this in the first Spider-Verse movie. I never got the vibe that Gwen was trans. So I don't know. I could see them trying to, like, maybe slip that in, because I hear this one ends with a cliffhanger that people were angry about. So I could see them maybe trying to, like, let's kind of subtly Pavlov people and just make them kind of accept it and just kind of background notice it. And then in the next movie, maybe we'll bring it up. Maybe not. It seems like a really complex thing for a kid's movie. But then again, they are trying to push this in kids' movies. We had, like, the non-binary Transformer in the kids' cartoon. We had the non-binary Bison in the Netflix kids' cartoon. So, like, they are doing this kind of stuff. I just don't know if this is as deep as they think it is, or if they're really seriously, crazily reading into things. I can see what they're saying, though. Like Into the Spider-Verse before it, Across the Spider-Verse boasts a diverse array of characters, with the Spider-Verse teaming with different versions of Spider-Man who share many of the same struggles, but also the same pride in their identities. Whether Gwen Stacy is trans, an ally, or simply a metaphor for the trans experience, many fans have praised the inclusion of a trans-coded superhero overcoming adversity in a world hell-bent on suppressing her. So I'm guessing there might be some feminist vibes as well in there, because I don't know. I'm gonna, I'll watch it and I'll say what I think of it at some point. I just don't necessarily want to go see it in theaters. So, like I said, it's not something I would take my son to, because I don't know what's going to be in it that way, per se. He has watched the other one and he likes it, but I just don't. It's not something I feel safe taking a small child to without having seen it first, if that makes sense, because I don't necessarily want to open up questions that I'm like, ooh, you're not even 5 yet. You're not ready for this. So I will probably watch it, but I don't have a reason to go see it in theaters and spend money on it is my conclusion. One user, like in the open-ended answer of the question of Gwen's identity to Star Wars actor Mark Hamill's past comments that his legendary character, Luke Skywalker, could be gay. And if that's how viewers choose to interpret him, which drives me insane, because in the expanded universe, which I have read many of the books because I was a pretty big Star Wars nerd, Luke Skywalker was happily married, had a wife who was murdered by his nephew, but that's a whole other thing. They should have had that actually in The Last Jedi, because instead of Luke having a bad dream and being like, my nephew might be evil, and then like trying to slaughter him, how about have, oh my gosh, he actually was bad. He murdered my wife. My husband and I have a whole thing where he basically came up with a whole new plot for those movies. And I was like, why is this so much better than Disney? But seriously, I'm not going to go into that. I won't go into that. But anyway, Luke was very much not gay. That is a very safe answer. That is a very ambiguity. Let's just be ambiguous and love everyone. Like, that's what that feels like. And it's just kind of annoying. In an interview with The Sun in 2016, and the acclaimed actor said, fans would say to me, could Luke be gay? I'd say it is meant to be interpreted by the viewer. Well, not if I know they're not canon anymore, but if you read the original timeline, no. No, it was not meant to be interpreted by the viewer. Luke's sexuality was very straightforward. He had a wife. If you think Luke is gay, of course he is, he continued. You should not be ashamed of it. Judge Luke by his character, not who he loves. While Gwen Stacy's gender identity is not integral to the plot of Across the Spiderverse, the struggle she faces in her life have resonated with the trans community and cemented her as a trans icon, whether she is cisgendered or not. Gwen isn't the only Spidey who's been embraced by the LGBT community. Last year, Marvel revealed details of the origin story of its first ever gay Spider-Man, who made his debut in the 5th issue of the Edge of Spider-Verse comic book. Fans will find out whether Gwen's trans mythology is further explored when the 3rd installment in the franchise, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, is released in March 2024. Across the Spider-Verse is in cinemas now. So, yeah, I guess I can see it. I can see it. I wonder if it was supposed to be a subtle hidden message. I don't know if they intended to go so far with it as to be like, yes, yeah, she is. That's a whole character arc in the next movie. But now that people are pushing it as an idea, I wonder if they will. Yeah, so I would say don't necessarily not see it. Again, I don't know everything that's in it at this moment. But I wouldn't not see it over that unless you have very perceptive children. So, like, if that's all that's in it, I would let my son watch it because he can't read. He's not going to know what that sign means. He's just going to see colors. He's not going to understand unless they blatantly say something like, Dad, I'm trans. And it's like, what's that mean, Mom? So, but if you have kids that are old enough to read and kind of understand a little bit, but you don't want them exposed to that, then I'd say maybe don't take them to see it. Because it'll bring up uncomfortable questions that you may not necessarily want to have at that time with your child. Plugged in. I'm looking up. Oh, is it Into the Spider-Verse or Across? I'm looking up Unplugged In, which makes me laugh. It's Focus on the Family. My parents would always use this to look stuff up to see if it was okay for us. And I always would laugh at it because I will say they will give you things that like IMDb might not, in the sense of like, IMDb might not see like gay and trans stuff as an issue. So they might not bring it up in like the nudity, sexuality, or what segment of their little parents guide. However, Plugged In, where it's a Christian company, they will. They'll be like, oh, there were themes of this in it, so just watch out. They'll tell you like medium content caution for kids, light for teens and adults. One thing I do laugh at though with them, and I just kind of am like, huh, and I can't always take them seriously, is they'll tell you everything right down to a character broke wind, negative element that some parents, I get it. That like fart jokes were something in my household that were made. My mom wasn't a huge fan of them, but it's not like they didn't happen. But I also knew kids that grew up in households where you didn't talk about that. So some sorry, my son's like tossing Legos. Some more stricter households might not let you watch it because somebody farts or something like that. So they give you all of those details, which on one hand, it makes me laugh, and on other hands, it's nice. So I just want to quickly see if they have something in their sexual content to see if it's about, you know, if there's anything in it that, oh, here we go. A scene in Gwen's bedroom includes a brief glimpse of a poster above her bedroom door that reads "Protect Trans Kids," and her father, who's a police officer, appears to be wearing a trans flag badge on the shoulder of his uniform. While you almost have to be looking for these visual cues to notice them all, online conversation in response to them is speculating about whether Gwen is trans, or at least symbolically representing the trans community. Usually we hop down to other negative elements, and they have potty humor. Exactly what I just said. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I wouldn't take your kids to see it over the trans thing unless they can read and they notice things. Like if they're like an eagle-eyed little person who's going to spot cues like that, then that might not go over very well if they ask you, "Mom, what does protect trans kids mean?" But I don't know. We'll have to watch it and we'll have to find out, and I will have to give an honest assessment when I do eventually watch it. So eventually we'll get to that. After that Spider-Man stuff, I'm gonna hop over to the aliens because why not? So a military whistleblower says the U.S. has recovered dead pilots from craft of non-human origin, and that the world powers are involved in an arms race to reverse engineer crashed UFOs. That is a mouthful. David Charles Gersh made the claims in a series of interviews this week. So many ads. The former intelligence officer filed a whistleblower complaint in Congress, says U.S. has recovered numerous craft and dead pilots of non-human origin. So we also had a bunch of stuff come out, like with the Biden family and just things that don't look good with them. And it is weirdly coincidental that, yeah, no, aliens as political stuff is happening. So I don't know that I believe it. I'm wondering, I feel like it's probably just bullcrap, but let's see. Stop just playing videos. Jeez. The former intelligence officer who claims the U.S. government has recovered multiple UFOs of non-human origin has also claimed that dead pilots have been retrieved from the wreckage. David Charles Gersh, an Air Force veteran and former member of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, said the U.S. and other nations are engaged in a top-secret arms race to reverse engineer alien technology. Okay, this sounds like the Cold War, or the race to create the atomic bomb and turn the tide of World War II. Like, is this Oppenheimer with aliens? What's going on? He made the extraordinary claims in the media interviews this week after filing a whistleblower complaint, providing what he calls classified proof to Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Grush, 36, said that in addition to recovering partial and intact extraterrestrial craft for decades, the U.S. government has also retrieved the remains of alien pilots, then show them to us. Naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots, and believe it or not, as fantastical as it sounds, it's true, he told News Nation. Grush is a former member of the Pentagon's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, which was tasked with investigating UFOs and has since reorganized into the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office to include investigations of objects operating underwater. Citing witness statements from numerous current and former intelligence officers, Grush claims that the key information about the recovered non-human craft was withheld from the UAP task force during his tenure. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse, Grush told News Nation. People started to confide in me, approach me. I have plenty of senior former intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me that they were part of the program. He says he learned of a secret U.S. program attempting to reverse engineer alien technology, which was not disclosed to the task force members. That sounds like, what, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? These are retrieving non-human origin tech vehicles, call it spacecraft, if you will, non-human exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed, Grush said. Grush said he has never seen photos of the alleged recovered craft. but he has spoken extensively with others who have. It's a little bit of a red flag there where it's like, okay, you haven't actually seen this stuff. I don't know. That makes me a little less inclined to be like, oh my gosh, really? Because he hasn't even seen what he's claiming that, he has information on. So that's a little sketchy. In a statement to Daily Mail on Tuesday, Department of Defense spokesperson Sue Gao said, "To date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently." She added that the task force has established a process for individuals who come forward to aid congressionally mandated historical reviews, which I'll just call it AARO, is due to provide to Congress by June 2024. AARO is committed to following the data and its investigation wherever it leads, said Gao. So they're just showing us some stuff. We are not talking about prosaic origins or identity, whatever. The material includes intact and partially intact vehicles, Grish told the debrief, which first reported his claims. The existence of complex historical programs involving the coordinated retrieval and study of exotic materials dating back to the early 20th century should no longer remain a secret. Grish, who served in Afghanistan and worked for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and National Reconnaissance Office, has handed over details of the alleged operations to Congress and the intelligence community inspector general. He has also filed a complaint against the Department of Defense and claims he's been ostracized for his decision to blow the whistle. Well, that's usually what happens when you decide to break government secrets. You're not necessarily their favorite person, whether he's telling the truth or not. I don't know. Their 36-year-old worked on the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 to 2021. A retired Army colonel, who is also part of the UAP task force, Carl Nell, said his assertion concerning the existence of a terrestrial arms race occurred sub rosa over the past 80 years, focused on reversing engineering technologies of unknown origin, is fundamentally correct, and the indisputable realization that at least some of these technologies of unknown origin derive from non-human intelligence. Gersh said that keeping the information secret further inhibits the world populace to be prepared for an unexpected non-human intelligence contact scenario. These claims come days after Pentagon chief admitted that unidentified metallic orb UFOs have been spotted all over the world. Physicist Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, director of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office — there's a lot of offices here — told NASA's first ever public hearing to the phenomenon, "We see these metal orbs all over the world, and we see these making very interesting apparent maneuvers." Dr. Kirkpatrick presented AARO's latest finding to NASA's independent team of scientists and other experts who have been tasked with studying the UFO phenomena, which has become increasingly less stigmatized following several high-profile congressional hearings and military sightings, right? Because, when COVID and everyone was mad and, hey, by the way, aliens are real. What? And then they just, shut it down and never, okay, you gonna elaborate there? So I wonder if this is just another, hey, distraction. And they're never gonna elaborate. Or in, 5 years, they're gonna be like, yeah, so aliens, they're real. And we're gonna be like, what? Because, who's to say they're not lying about this? Come on. Scientists and policymakers from NASA's independent panel also discussed their own proposed recommendations to the Federal Space Agency, including an active effort to remove the stigma surrounding UAP research, as well as a hunt for alien artifacts within our solar system. Meanwhile, it was also revealed that NASA hearing that the space agency will work closely with the Pentagon's official UFO investigations on top-secret UFO cases. Dr. Kirkpatrick said that the Pentagon is closely collaborating with NASA embeds scientists who have been cleared for work on classified UAP cases, where their expertise could help military investigators identify the mysterious craft or events. Wow. My brain shut off for a second. Kirkpatrick added that aeroplanes to deploy dedicated sensors for typical UAP sightings, equipment independent of the existing military defense sensors that have thus far picked up UAP evidence in the course of their normal duties. Both NASA's head of science, the space and atmospheric physicist Dr. Nikki Fox, and AARO's director, Dr. Kirkpatrick, also took the time to rebuke unnamed individuals for harassing members of the NASA panel. Both said these attitudes, online and among officialdom, have contributed to the continuing social stigma around UAP. I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna like stop reading the article there because it's just kind of, So I don't know. I know. So there's a lot of debate right now because of this as to whether or not aliens are real, whether or not they're a thing. I don't know. I don't know if they're real or not. I would say that sometimes it irks me when I hear Christians talk about how like, well, there's no other life out there because if there was, Christ would have had to have died for them too. And it's like, okay, but did Christ die for dogs? Did Christ die for alligators? There could be other life out there. We as humans were created in God's image, as we're told in scripture. And, we are the ones who he created for his glory. And we're also the ones that fell into sin. Who's to say that there might not be beings out there that were not necessarily created in God's image, did not necessarily have the fall like we had. He could have had other creations out there. I mean, he created angels, there's demons, there's other things that are in the spiritual realm. So who's to say that putting God in the box of, well, he couldn't possibly have created other extraterrestrial life out there because he would have had to have died for them too. God didn't die for the angels. God didn't die for the demons. God didn't die for your puppy. So I wouldn't say intelligent life in the sense of how we are per se, but I do wonder if there are other things out there. Because it seems like you're kind of saying that, the creator of the universe can do anything but create life other than Earth. It's kind of small-minded to me. And that said, I also wonder about the theory that all of the alien encounters that people have claimed to have had could potentially be demonic encounters or angelic encounters. Because, I mean, I think they say this in the first Thor movie where they're like, oh, we came down to Earth and they mistook us for gods. But think about it. Like, there's so many things that we don't understand. We are unable to access heaven. We're not able to access hell. That's a totally different realm of reality, and I don't understand it. And I don't know, maybe one day God will be like, oh, this is why, when we meet him. But I have wondered about that theory as well, that maybe there is not extraterrestrial life out there, and maybe we are seeing glimpses of another realm. Maybe we're seeing demonic activity. Maybe we're seeing angelic activity. Either way, I don't know that I believe this story for 1 second, regardless of if there's aliens out there, regardless of if it's a demon. I don't think that this is true. I'm fairly certain that it's another distraction from what's important, because what else would turn people's heads other than aliens? Oh, really? I mean, this is literally, this article reads, and this whole thing begins like War of the Worlds or Signs or something, where it's like, we're not alone in the universe. Oh, really? Now my cornfield's full of aliens. Like, it just feels kind of like that. So I just don't know. But I'm also apt to not trust when a government official, even a whistleblower sometimes, says, hey, by the way. So I don't know how I feel about it. How do you feel about aliens? I'd love to hear. Totally disagree with me. It's fine. I'm also not totally solid in those views where it's just me kind of musing. So another thing that I like to muse about would be, say, the book of Genesis, which is so vague. Like, we know man was created. We know man fell. We know there was a flood. We know Abraham existed. But the time from the creation of the earth and God's creation of man to the fall, the fall we know a little better, but like, say, to the flood, we really have no idea how long that was. We know Methuselah lived to be almost 1,000 years old. We know that Adam was over 900 years old when he died. Moses was 500. Noah was over 500. After the flood is when God chose to shorten the lifespan of man, so that 100 years at best, instead of, you lived for about 1,000 years because we had a world to populate. And I wonder, like, within that time, how technologically advanced we were. People openly talked to angels. The whole Nephilim thing was there. It's just, there's so much that we don't know. I feel like it's a little small-minded to put God in a box and be like, well, he couldn't possibly have created life elsewhere. It's ridiculous. It's totally possible, but I just don't know to what extent their intelligence would be. I don't know. It's interesting to me. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but it's just something that I like to muse about. I'm not saying that I'm necessarily of the belief of these exact things, but it's something I feel like would be, instead of me just rambling to you about like aliens, it'd be more fun to have a conversation with somebody about this, because I feel like it would make more sense to like pitch ideas back and forth. Not saying I believe the crazy stuff that I just said about aliens, but at the same time, we claim to serve a God that anything is possible, right? What does that catechism say? You know, the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. So if we're literally put here to glorify God and eventually enjoy him forever in heaven, who's to say that he didn't create other beings or other life that also was for his pleasure and to glorify him? He clearly created the universe. I'm not a flat earther, can you tell? He clearly created the whole universe for his glory as a showcase. That's one thing that actually drives me nuts too about Christian flat earthers. I'm sorry, I'm going here. Is I understand you believe in the firmament, and I understand you believe in like the stars or whatever, but I've heard so many Christian flat earther arguments that talk about how, well, no, the planets don't exist. The galaxies don't exist. They're all psyops. They're all fake. They're things that are just put there to support evolution and pretend that God isn't in control and God doesn't exist. And I'm not apt to believe that, because the Bible literally says the heavens declare the handiworks of God. Who are you to say that God didn't put planets up there, put nebulas up there, put galaxies up there? He's God. He can do anything. He can create anything for his pleasure and his glory, just to showcase his miraculous beauty and power. So who are you to say that, oh, those things don't exist? Who, like, it's like Job, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Who are you to put God in a box? But anyway, I will stop on that rant, because I didn't mean to go into a flat earther rant. But it kind of gets my goat a little bit, where I'm like, okay, you claim to believe in this all-powerful, all-knowing, can make anything out of nothing God, and yet you're putting him in the box of, well, he can't do these things. And it's like, okay. Anyway, we're going to move on from the aliens, because I could rant forever about that. And we're going to talk about Matt Walsh. So I pulled up a Timcast article by Cassandra McDonald about it, because the Twitter thread itself is so extensive that, man, I just don't want to go through it tweet by tweet. So I'll pull up what Cassandra wrote about it, and she sums it up pretty well. So we'll look at that. And I should probably show it to you as well. I love that image. Oh my gosh. So Matt Walsh's producer gets approved for testicle removal in a 22-minute video call. One of the largest transgender healthcare providers in the U.S. approved Matt Walsh's producer for testicle removal in a 22-minute video call. The Daily Wire producer, Greg Ree, sounds like Gregory, that's funny. Greg Ree told the healthcare provider that he had dysphoria in the past but did not currently. They diagnosed him with the disorder anyway to ensure that insurance would cover the procedure. Oh my word. So here's a thing from Matt Walsh's tweet. The largest trans healthcare provider in the U.S. are rubber stamping letters approving gruesome, life-altering surgeries. It is such a racket that my producer was approved for testicle removal in 22 minutes. The tape is disturbing, so it's recorded. First, some background. Ari Groner is a licensed clinical social worker who educates doctors on trans healthcare. At a recent training session for the Juniper Center, Groner explained that she writes whatever letters her patients want because she's not a gatekeeper. So this little image has like tips and tricks for beginning. Acknowledging power, differential and difficulty sharing, use client language, explain a timeline, use guidelines provided. The following is a clinical assessment of readiness for blank, legally for the purpose of blank. Is this helpful? Find templates. Number 3. Groner was referring to the WPATH standards, which major hospitals follow. They require that trans patients obtain a letter before undergoing surgeries. But Groner tells her audience to treat the letters as a persuasive essay and to greenlight even suicidal patients. Jeez. The basics: identifying info, a legal name, date of birth, requested medical procedures. Mental health. dates of therapy, relevant physicists, gender dysphoria, and it just goes on and on and on. It just shows like their criteria, I guess. Groner explains the insurance companies won't pay for these surgeries unless the patient is diagnosed with gender dysphoria. So, she says healthcare workers should be providing the diagnosis. We're using that diagnosis, she says, to ensure clients get the necessary treatment. Who? Mental health professionals, asked by medical providers. When? Within 1 year of medical consultant, 1 to 2 sessions typically. What? So what would they be prescribed? Blockers, hormone therapy, surgeries, gender marker change. Referring out can create additional barriers to care. So in other words, don't go for a referral. Don't go for a second opinion. You know, when you have a tumor or you might have breast cancer and you say, can I get a second opinion? Can I get a referral? They're saying not to do that with this gender dysphoria stuff because they don't want anybody else looking at you and saying, actually, I don't know if you have gender dysphoria. Actually, I wonder if you are just, you know, you might need to go through some therapy. They don't want you to do that because that won't make them money. Ree made an appointment with the most prominent trans healthcare provider in the U.S., Plume Clinic, which provides these letters for $150. Folks, which provides letters authorizing surgeries for a nominal fee, goes on to admit that is quite possible. Patients will receive a letter indicating gender dysphoria diagnosis even though they really do not have dysphoria. That's horrifying. The fact that you can be put on puberty blockers, you can be put on hormones, you can have your genitals chopped off, you can have your breasts removed, when they're also saying, well, they don't really have gender dysphoria, but we're going to let it happen anyway. That is horrifying. Not that I don't believe in transgenderism at all to begin with, but even if I did, to say that somebody has a condition when they so clearly do not, gender dysphoria, that's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm. What the crap? So there's a little image that Matt Walsh included where it says, it is quite possible the information in the letter may not be specific to you. For example, they may use a gender dysphoria diagnosis, but you really do not have dysphoria even if you want top surgery. Even if some of the details are not as specific to you and your situation as you would like, it may be more helpful to understand some of the whys behind including such information for coding and or payment requirements. Be aware providers can use different versions of letter templates to meet these requirements. Keep in mind that not all medical providers are informed on WPATH guidelines or gender-affirming care in general. That is why it is so crucial to find a culturally competent provider who understands how to write a surgery letter, or in other words, go to somebody and if you don't like what you hear, oh, you're not going to diagnose me with gender dysphoria, I guess I'll go on to the next guy and see if he will. Wow. When we reached out to folks about this, a staff member confirmed that a diagnosis of gender dysphoria with the words diagnosis and scare quotes is a requirement for insurance purposes, even if it doesn't apply. In his intake form with Plume, Greg provided a fake legal name. He said he had dysphoria in the past, but he stated that he had never experienced it for 6 months or more. Under the current version of DSM-5, that means he doesn't have gender dysphoria, Walsh wrote in a Twitter thread. Plume quickly scheduled Greg for a video interview anyway. He assumed the identity, Chelsea Bussey. I don't know. He didn't even have to attempt to pass. He badly mispronounced the name of the surgery he wanted. He made it clear he didn't know the effect the surgery would have. And that is terrifying, and I've listened to detransitioners talk about that, specifically Helena LaCroix, where she talked about how she went into Planned Parenthood at 18, and she said, hey, I want to be on testosterone, I want hormones and puberty, well, not puberty blockers, but hormones. And they were like, sure, how much do you want? And she was like, can you give me the max amount? Because she had no idea. And they said, sure thing. Even though when you go on testosterone or you go on estrogen, you're supposed to start small and you're supposed to slowly build your way up, because the dosage of estrogen or testosterone that they put you on can kill you if it is too high for your body and it's rejecting it. So they want people who don't know what's going on. They want customers who do not know what you are doing to them, clearly. All right. The largest trans healthcare provider in the U.S., Plume Clinic, runs a similar scam. They sell letters for 150 authorizing surgeries. That's how our producer, Greg Ree, received an approval for testicle removal after a 22-minute call. So they were ready to remove his testicles to sterilize this man when he clearly was pretending to not know what he was talking about. Like, obviously, they didn't know that. They hoped he didn't know what he was talking about. That is insanity. In his intake form with Plume, Greg provided a fake legal name. He said he had dysphoria in the past, but he stated he had never experienced it for 6 months or more. Under the current version of the DSM-5, that means he doesn't have gender dysphoria. And there's an image of that provided where it says, have you experienced dysphoria as a result of the difference between your gender and sex assigned? Yes. Has this dysphoria ever lasted for 6 months or longer? No. So that's terrifying that they would take somebody who once in a while has a mental condition where they question their gender and say, well, we will permanently sterilize you instead of treating that. Nevertheless, Plume's nurse practitioner said she wanted the most solid letter possible to justify surgery. Greg tells her that he once wrote an essay in school about being a woman, which everyone thought was ridiculous. Walsh's thread continues. Greg also tells Plume's nurse practitioner that his father had been prescribing him hormones for years. The nurse does not question this in any way. Instead, she says that arrangement is perfect. Another section of Matt Walsh's Twitter thread says, Plume quickly scheduled Greg for a video interview anyway. He assumed the identity, Chelsea Bussey. He didn't even attempt to pass. He badly mispronounced the name of surgery he wanted. He made it clear he didn't know the effect the surgery would have. Nevertheless, Plume's nurse practitioner said she wanted to write the most solid letter possible to justify surgery. Greg tells her that he once wrote an essay, which we read through the article. After a 3-day wait, the letter arrived saying Chelsea Bussey was experiencing significant ongoing gender dysphoria and strongly recommended testicle removal. And then they have an image of the letter, which says, to whom it may concern, Chelsea Bussey is a patient in my care at Plume Health. She has been a patient here since 5/15/2023. She identifies as a trans woman and uses her pronouns. This gender identity is well established. By my independent evaluation of Chelsea Bussey, legal name Gregory Knoll, she meets the criteria for gender dysphoria. She has identified as her affirmed gender for 6 years and has been living as or expressing her affirmed gender for over 2 years. She has been on hormone therapy since April 2021. Despite these interventions, she reports significant ongoing gender dysphoria. She's seeking osteotomy to help alleviate her gender dysphoria, and it is my professional opinion that she would benefit greatly, both medically and psychology, from orectomy. This procedure has been defined as medically necessary by the World Professional Association for the Transgender Health to treat gender dysphoria. Chelsea Bussey has met the WPATH criteria for gender dysphoria and is appropriate candidate for my pronunciation's bad today. Orectomy. She has the capacity to provide information consent for this procedure. Clearly not, if he was pretending that he wasn't. I anticipate this will help her make significant progress in further treating her gender dysphoria, and I therefore recommend and refer Chelsea Bussey. That sounded bad. Chelsea Bussey to have the surgery. Plume Health currently operates on a virtual telehealth basis, so pre-operative risk assessment or for post-operative care, patients will need to see their primary care provider or surgeon. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Walsh noted that the letter keeps capitalizing orchiectomy without an "and" before it, as if it's just been copy-pasted into a template. That's interesting. Because grammatically, if it starts with a vowel, if the word starts with a vowel, you would not have "a" in front of it. You would have "an" in front of it. So that's an interesting observation. Ree followed up by messaging the provider and asking why he was diagnosed with gender dysphoria. The provider said they used a template provided by the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. So the message says, just checking on this to make sure this will be okay in the letter. I'm not really considering myself to be dysphoric, so wanted to check on that one thing. Otherwise, the letter looks great. Thank you. And then the response back was, hi, Chelsea. This is redacted. A care coordinator with Plume. I will page your provider on this to see what she says. I know we write letters based on WPATH templates, but I can ask your provider if it is necessary to have it, and if not, perhaps it can be removed. Later, Plume's nurse practitioner confirmed that in order for the surgery to be paid for, the dysphoria diagnosis would need to remain. At the same time, the nurse had appeared and confused as to why Chelsea Bussey had requested testicle removal in the first place. Hi, thanks for getting back to me. I was just saying I don't feel dysphoric right now, but is it okay to keep it in the letter? Oh, okay, well the surgery is related to the gender dysphoria, which you were diagnosed with. It is controlled with HRT, but in order for the surgery to be paid for by a GCS, it will need to be related to your gender dysphoria, which you are diagnosed with. Does that make sense, or is the Archie not gender confirming? Plume's nurse practitioner told Ree that he must use the gender dysphoria diagnosis in order for the surgery to be paid for. The scam is the cutting edge of trans healthcare. After launching just a couple years ago, Plume now operates in 41 states. Folks is in 47 states. How is it possible they've expanded so quickly, Walsh wrote. The answer is that there's big money behind it. Plume and Folks raised more than $45 million last year. Holy cow! Walsh also tagged insurance companies, asking them if they know they're paying for surgeries based on obviously false information. Smart. The thread continued with Walsh saying, they're furious because they know gender transition industry is corrupt and fraudulent from the ground up. Protecting kids is just one piece of the puzzle. The fight begins there, but it doesn't end there. The whole industry needs to be shut down. So that is interesting. And the fact, I won't play the videos and stuff because I'm going to end the video pretty soon. But I will link everything if people want to actually check it out. And I will link Matt Walsh's thread as well in the description, the video description. Wow. That's insane to me. So yeah, of course they're going to go after your kids if they're going after adults as well. That's terrible. I mean, imagine if that was just a person who had no idea what they were doing, what they were talking about, and they were like, I think this, can you help me? And they were like, yeah, sure, let's cut your balls off. That's literally what, wow. That blows my mind. That's terrifying and terrible. And it's really sad to think about how many people have been led astray by this ideology. John Money and Alfred Kinsey would be proud. Let's just say that. I'm going to end the recording here. I don't know if you guys heard it, but my son was messing around in the kitchen. So I need to go find out what he's up to out there. I don't know. I don't think I'll record a video tomorrow. We have family from out of state, so it's kind of going to be a busy week, but I will try and get a couple videos out next week. Ideally, hopefully, I'd like to keep this as consistent as possible because I hate it when I'm like not able to continue. So I hope everyone has a great afternoon. And if I don't see everyone again, I hope you have a great weekend. Avoid that Canada smoke if you can. Where I am, it's all gray and hazy. We haven't had any orange in the skyline like I know some other states have. But, you know, hopefully Canada doesn't kill us all. So have a great afternoon. Have a great weekend or great evening, because by the time I post this, it will be evening. And I will see everybody next time.